According to Ayurveda, sleep is a basic essential requirement for an individual to keep the healthy status in the physical and mental plane. Ayurveda visualizes that the body is to be utilized for doing different activities of this life, and mind is responsible for initiating all activities in the body. Through the mind, the activities of the body are initiated by all the individuals. So in a day where 24 hours are there, one can maximum work for a period of 12 to 13 hours in the physical plane, probably 16 to 17 hours in the mental plane. So physical plane needs to be rested once it is exhausted with your day-to-day activities. With the complete rest of the physical plane, next day again one can start working with the body. Same way, it is important to remember that mind also needs a rest with which it gets energized, so that next day onwards one can start working with the mind. So basic work of the mind is to create thoughts, and that thought process is gradually stopped when one goes into sleep. So sleep is a state where the mind stops functioning, mind stops thinking, and that state is absolute rest for the mind. So when you want to again activate the mind for the purpose of doing different activities, you should remember that it also needs a minimum restful state. In the thought processes generally in a normal phase, a normal activity can be initiated with sufficient discrimination. If the thought process is with extra pace, that means more than what you require, more thoughts are coming to the mind than what is actually required, mind will be gradually showing the symptoms of fatigue, symptoms of dysfunction, and you will not be in a very relaxed mode to do the different activities. So for a normal mind where one is generally relaxed, he can activate his mind according to as and when needed. Such activities can be confined to 15-16 hours a day. That means another 8 hours a day we are supposed to give rest for the mind. And sleep is a natural way of giving rest, and it should not be an induced sleep. Even in a natural sleep of 8 hours, one will be getting a maximum of 5 to 6 hours of sleep in a deep state. In a deep sleep means where there is no thoughts at all. 1 or 2 hours, most of the people will be tossing here and there with light thoughts coming in and going out. So a sleep of 5 to 6 hours continuous without much thoughts would be good enough to give a complete rest to the mental plane, so that it can start activated when you require, or as and when you require. So sleep is considered to be one of the basic essential requirement of an individual. We say your healthy status or disease status is based on this. Your comfort level or discomfort is based on the sleep you are getting, or your life or death is also ultimately based on the sleep. Your healthy status or the weak status is also based on the sleep you are getting. That means a healthy, knowingly sleeping status can induce health to the physical plane. Same way, if you are not sleeping properly, that can also be initiating the weakness into the physical plane. So health or disease or life or death ultimately can be connected to the sleep as well. So as far as sleep is concerned, knowingly you need to move into the sleep. One goes into the sleep only when the thought process of the mind is gradually coming down, and that part can be consciously initiated, keeping the mind away from the external contacts, external objects, consciously trying to withdraw into yourself through some parameters or through some exercises, and consciously deciding that the rest of the things will be done tomorrow. You are allowing the mind to get a reduced number of thoughts. The thoughts are gradually coming to almost nil state. One slips into a sleep state. So sleep, according to Ayurveda, is a most important requirement to keep the health. And even in diseases also, this is very important. One is the awareness of what is happening during sleep. Awareness that the mind is getting the exactly needed rest. Second, sleep is a state where mind is gradually slipping into that, where you can also play a role in initiating the sleep process. So these two things are most important so that you can get a natural sleep where you are giving a healthy status or a pleasant status to your mind, and also through that you are ensuring that your physical structures are kept healthy.